Donald Trump claims he fixed the border, showcasing a chart that proves his success. But is this chart truly what it seems, or is it another spin from the master of spectacle? The infamous chart. Trump's evidence. Trump has repeatedly presented a chart to the public, claiming it shows the lowest number of illegal immigrants in history when he left office. He uses it to drive home the narrative that his presidency marked a historic success at securing the U.S.-Mexico border. In one of his speeches, Trump dramatically pointed at a red arrow on the chart and declared, "This was my last week in office." Look how low that number is. The chart does show a dip in border apprehensions. But as with most things in politics, context is everything. What Trump conveniently omits is that this low point occurred during a time of extreme global lockdowns, not due to any particular brilliance in policy. In fact, a closer inspection reveals the numbers were already rising sharply as soon as the world began to move again. Sure, the numbers dipped, but when you take a closer look, it wasn't due to some genius strategy. It was simply the world hitting pause during a pandemic. April 2020. A convenient outlier. The so-called low point Trump boasts about occurred in April 2020, when border apprehensions dropped to around 16,000. Why? Because during this period, the entire world was in lockdown. Travel restrictions were imposed globally, flights were grounded, and economies were brought to a halt. The drop in border crossings had less to do with Trump's policies and more to do with the pandemic-induced paralysis. Fast forward to January 2021, and border apprehensions were back up to over 75,000, showing a massive rebound as the world began reopening. It's not that Trump's border policies were especially effective. It's that people simply couldn't move across borders at all. While Trump loves to point out this low as a victory, it's like taking credit for a hurricane keeping people indoors. What happens after the chart? While Trump emphasizes the sharp uptick in border crossings after Biden took office, the reality is more complex. The world was emerging from lockdowns, and with that came a resurgence in mobility. Moreover, Trump's handling of immigration policies had long-term consequences that were bound to catch up. It wasn't simply that Biden took office and the gates opened. It was a slow burn from years of policy that were bound to overflow. Under Trump, the infamous Remain in Mexico policy forced tens of thousands of asylum seekers to wait in dangerous conditions. When Biden reversed this policy, it created a backlog and exacerbated the situation at the border, but it wasn't the sole reason for the rise in crossings. Many of the policies Trump put in place were reactionary, leaving deeper issues unresolved and setting up a delayed crisis that became Biden's to handle. Migrant encounters. The numbers don't lie. Let's talk numbers. In fiscal year 2023, 46% of border encounters involved migrants from Mexico, Guatemala, and Honduras, with Venezuelans making up 10.7%. These countries have been consistent sources of migration due to poverty, violence, and instability. But while Trump likes to suggest that his administration had a handle on things, the numbers tell a different story. They show that migration patterns don't shift overnight, and policies that create short-term solutions often lead to long-term problems. In fact, border encounters in Trump's last year were 14.7% higher than during Obama's final year. That's right. Despite all the tough rhetoric and policies like separating families, illegal immigration didn't magically stop under Trump. Migrants continued to come, undeterred by walls or draconian measures, and the numbers continued to rise. The border wall, a vanity project. The border wall, Trump's signature promise, was touted as the ultimate solution to illegal immigration. We're building the wall, and Mexico is paying for it, Trump repeatedly claimed. Fast forward to 2024. The wall remains incomplete, and Mexico, as expected, didn't pay a single peso. Instead, the American taxpayer footed the bill for a project that was more symbolic than practical. While over 450 miles of wall were constructed during Trump's presidency, much of it was replacement fencing. Critics argue that the wall was more about political theater than actual border security. A wall without comprehensive policy reform is like putting a Band-Aid on a broken arm. It might make you feel better for a while, but it doesn't actually fix anything. Crime at the border. Trump's favorite bogeyman. Trump has frequently pointed to rising crime as a result of illegal immigration. But here's a plot twist. Data shows that immigrants are less likely to commit crimes than native-born Americans. In fiscal year 2023, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement arrested about 103,700 non-citizens with criminal convictions. However, many of these convictions were for minor offenses like traffic violations, not the violent crimes Trump often alludes to. In reality, immigrants, both documented and undocumented, contribute to lower crime rates in communities. The fear-mongering around dangerous migrants has long been debunked by studies showing that immigrants actually commit fewer crimes. But it's a narrative that worked for Trump and continues to resonate with certain parts of the electorate, even when the data says otherwise. Biden's approach: a crisis or just cleanup? Trump's chart also contrasts the so-called invasion of migrants after Biden took office. But Biden's approach has been a more humanitarian one, focused on undoing many of Trump's restrictive measures, such as the family separation policy. The Biden administration has introduced the Customs and Border Protection One app, which allows migrants to schedule appointments for asylum hearings. This aims to bring some order to the chaos, though it's still a work in progress. While there are still challenges, Biden's approach is a pivot from the harshness of Trump's era. It's not perfect, but it's attempting to balance border security with human rights. Critics say that Biden's policies are too lenient, while others argue that he is finally trying to address the root causes of migration, such as poverty and violence in Central America, rather than just throwing up walls. Trump's legacy: I fixed it. Not really. In multiple speeches, Trump has claimed, "We fixed the border. It was so fixed, no one cared about it in 2020. But in reality, Trump left Biden with a border in disarray. His policies exacerbated the problem, leading to surges in border crossings once the pandemic eased. The chart may show a temporary low, but by the end of Trump's presidency, the numbers were climbing back up. Border Patrol data shows that apprehensions were already climbing steadily in Trump's final months in office, rising from 71,141 in December 2020 to 75,316 in January 2021. If that's fixed, maybe my broken laptop is fixed because I unplugged it. The border situation wasn't fixed. It was paused temporarily, and when the world started moving again, so did the people seeking better lives across the U.S. border. And there you have it, folks. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to smash that like button. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Drop a comment below with your thoughts. Let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay informed and stay curious.